Throwaway time. What's your secret that could literally ruin your life if it came out? 2.5 years ago I was in dire financial straits, so I sold my home to keep my struggling business afloat. I neglected to tell the owners that they have an 800 square fort bunker on the property that I built about 7 years ago. The bunker that I've called home since I sold it. The entrance to it is well hidden, but I still come and go very early, very late in the day. I'm a single man who keeps to himself. I'm now in a situation where I could move somewhere else, but I love this hidden paradise so much. I can't bring myself to type it out again, so copy-pasted the relevant part from the other place I posted this. I can't promise coherence, even after all these years it still cuts deep, and I'm probably going to wind up rambling like I did the first and only other time I talked about it. 10 years ago, when I was 7, my parents worked shift work in the military. Since their schedules didn't match up very well, it wasn't uncommon for them both to be working a 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift. As such, I had a babysitter. She was an old friend of my mother's, wonderful woman. She was the type who seemed to have the compulsion to feed everyone who came through her door. Matronly is the word I'm aiming for, I think. Anyway, she and her husband, along with their adopted daughter, were Christian. I tagged along to church with them a couple times, but it only furthered my atheistic leanings, which had already been in place. In time I politely turned down the offer to accompany them, instead staying home with their adopted son. At the time he was about as old as I am now. We shared similar interests, namely, playing Super Nintendo games and listening to loud music. Since the house was free of anyone to complain about it, we did so with abandon. I honestly don't remember how it started anymore. To the best of my recollection, he asked me to go with him into the bathroom to show me something. I was 7, naive, and he was a cool guy the first looked up to. Naturally, I followed without question. The first time, he showed me what was. At the time, of course, it was just, how to get your thing hard, but whatever. A few times after that, we'd do that when the others left, then go back to our gaming. Something always clawed at me, the feeling that something was wrong. He was older than me, though, and he was cool. It must be what the cool kids did, right? Slowly but surely, though, he escalated things. At first it was mutual. I still didn't really know what was going on, but I jerked him and he jerked me. It couldn't stop there, of course, and eventually built to him blowing me. After that happened a few times, he wanted me to return the favor. Again, I still didn't really grasp what was going on, but I tried. I hated the taste, and wound up refusing. After that happened a couple times, he would force me. I just started to go blank, I guess. I wouldn't do anything, I wouldn't think or feel. I just let him use my mouth until he was satisfied and would jerk into tissue to finish himself off. This went on for a while until my babysitter began to grow suspicious. He had made me promise not to tell anyone about our special time, and at that age a promise was something you didn't break for anything. That said, I just denied anything being wrong anytime my babysitter asked. Eventually she grew too concerned and, despite knowing nothing for certain, had my mom find an alternative sitter. Since then, he's gone through therapy. He admitted to having issues, apparently, but never spoke a word of what actually happened. I'm pretty sure it me up good, honestly. I never really properly appreciated the deep scars abuse leaves on a victim until I looked back on my life with that in mind. I buried it for years and tried to pretend I was normal, but I was definitely different. I was a lot more melancholy, and have had a few streaks of depression. I've never really been too certain of I'm scared to death of, honestly, and I think it's because part of me is afraid that I'll wind up just as abusive as he was. It helped a lot, opening up to my girlfriend. It doesn't haunt me like it used to, and I don't always feel like such a freak. It's helped strengthen our trust, and she's agreed to take things as slowly as I need to be comfortable. I've since stopped feeling so totally emasculated, as well, and it's almost something of a joke to me now. I know, isn't funny. The thing is though, you've got to be able to joke about it, even if only to yourself. If you can laugh at something, you can move past it. I can't help but chuckle when I'm arguing with someone and they tell me to or something to that effect. I can laugh at my own pain, so I can move past it. I don't think I'll ever be who I might have been if it hadn't happened, but I'm okay with that. Realistically, I can't even say I'd change it if I could. I'm fit, intelligent, in love and generally happy with my life. It was terrible, yes, and traumatic, but at least I know this path can lead to happiness. Take the evil you know, right? Anyway, that's my story. It's long, incoherent, and doesn't really have a proper end, but take it how you will. Haha, well, I'm a home-based business, so I usually at most am buying 10 to 20 boxes at a time. I usually line the bottom of the cart with cake mix and then put all my other stuff on top. Like 10 bags of powdered sugar. Then I use the self-checkout in shame and stack the boxes in my black canvas shopping bags. My worst fear is running into someone I know, or worse yet, whoever the cake is for, while I'm there with all these boxes of cake mix. That's why I act all shady about it, lol. Well, in reality, I don't know if I'd want to decorate a cake someone else baked. The thing is, I've become very good at adjusting the batter to the proper viscosity I like it to be at. I add an extra egg and adjust the liquid I add to the mix. I bake them to the perfect texture and know that once I level and cool them, they will be able to hold up to frosting, stacking, carving, etc. I'm afraid of how cake baked by someone who isn't a decorator would hold up to these things. Just icing a cake without it falling apart is quite a skill to learn. Well, in reality, I don't know if I'd want to decorate a cake someone else baked. The thing is, I've become very good at adjusting the batter to the proper viscosity I like it to be at. I add an extra egg and adjust the liquid I add to the mix. I bake them to the perfect texture and know that once I level and cool them, they will be able to hold up to frosting, stacking, carving, etc. I'm afraid of how cake baked by someone who isn't a decorator would hold up to these things. Just icing a cake without it falling apart is quite a skill to learn. Okay, so this is a secret I've kept for nearly 20 years. During the summers when I was growing up, my parents would often leave my brother and I'm male, with our aunt and uncle who lived out in the country. It was great as they had 4 sons of ages close to ours, so we had a lot of fun doing kid stuff. One summer when I was 8, the oldest cousin was maybe 16. We somehow got talking and he asked me if I wanted to sleep in his room that night. He has the nicest room and bed, so I was all for it. Got into bed and he asked if he could touch my penis. I was 8 and just thought it was okay, so I let him. He rubs it for a bit and then asks me to do the same to him. So I do. This progresses and eventually I'm sucking his. I think I knew this was wrong, so I said I didn't want to carry on. We stop and I go to sleep quite confused. I wake up and he hands me some money and tells me never to tell anyone about what happened. Next night he tries to do the same thing. But now all I care about is the money. So I do it. This carried on for 2 summers. Eventually I got old enough to realize it was quite wrong regardless of the money and stopped. I've not told anyone this. He's now married with 2 kids. I'm also married and we see them sometimes at family events. I don't have the balls to even try and talk to him about it. Hell, I'm not even sure what I'd say. I'm sure this will get buried, but just getting it off my chest makes me feel better. I once helped out my female friend's family by taking care of their cat for a week. Every day for a week, I would go over there and snoop around their house. I found my friend's diary, and proceeded to read the entire thing. I used this information to get her to like me, and she is currently my wife. IT guy here. It's amazing what people will do on their computers and say in their emails despite having to sign a waiver that all computer activity at work is monitored and recorded. I have half the company's banking, social media and personal email account info and passwords. I know who is secretly banging who at the office behind their spouses' backs. I know who is cybering at work and jerking it in the bathroom almost daily. At least they tell their chat partner they're running off to the bathroom to jerk it. Haven't felt the need to check the validity of that one. I know when people are having marital problems, financial problems. I even know one person here had their children taken away because a social worker found cocaine in their house. I know who is embezzling money. I know when people get fired for completely reasons, like they just want to replace them with someone younger and nicer on the eyes. And I know who my boss is buying Xanax and Vicodins from. Basically, I have a treasure trove of my coworkers' secrets. I won't actively do anything with this info, but it's nice knowing I have the ammunition there if something were to ever happen.